Woo! Seven Deadly Sins, double whammy. Hey guys, it's Tripl-L. Let's talk about the Seven Deadly Sins chapters 231 and 232. Overall, I'm just gonna say, man, these were amazing chapters. Overall, well, I'll get into a little bit more about the technicality of the chapter later, but overall, I really enjoyed seeing this conflict between Meliodas and Escanor. It does a lot of things for us. On a fan level, it's just super exciting to see it. But on a level of, what it's accomplishing, there's also some points of value for this little segment that happened with the Seven Deadly Sins. So let's just get right into it. Let's just get into talking about it. Overall, like I said, I'm really happy as a fan seeing this conflict and seeing Escanor just kind of go all out. You have two titans here, and what this really ultimately does is show us how powerful Meliodas is himself. Escanor's constantly escalating himself, and Meliodas is able to keep up with it up to the moment of invincibility. But it's cool to see, we're told that Meliodas is a character who rivaled the Demon King in his prime, or that he was going to be the next Demon King, and seeing this is largely something that proves that initial statement, it proves it. But anyway, let's talk about the technicality of the chapter. This week we got two chapters, but really not much actually happens with the two chapters. In terms of progression, we don't really go anywhere, and that makes sense when you realize what the two chapters are doing. Of the two chapters, 232 might be the strongest when it comes to plot. 231 is largely a exhibition match. It's just two guys fighting it out, just beating each other up, just giving the viewers a sense of, oh wow, this is pretty intense, so what ultimately happened here is that we sacrificed progression for an epic awesome fight scene. And this is just some little things to keep in mind, is that 231 again is a very simple chapter. So much so that we went for 5 pages straight without any text. This was just a constant exchange of blows in those 5 pages for 231. And then we had 3 more pages of no text kind of scattered across the chapter after the initial 5 pages of no text. So we ultimately end up with 8 pages of no text. That's almost half of the chapter. It makes for a very easy read because you're not reading much. You're just watching the choreography kind of play out. Now, because of that, there's not really much to say about 231 aside from a few little details like Escanor's power level hitting over hitting 114,000 and then rising from there. Because we know that when Hawk sees it, we're still approaching midday, so we know that power is going up as we get closer and closer to midday. But really, with 231, it's just largely the combat between the characters. 231 does have some very nice scenes though, in terms of just what we're seeing and the characters' expressions. There's quite a few scenes that I really loved in 231. Some of them were when Escanor grabs Meliodas' head. That was pretty funny. I thought that was cool. There was a scene where Meliodas in his dark mode has a kind of bewildered face. That was pretty funny to see, just because it's kind of funny to see a regular Meliodas face on this evil looking Meliodas, right? The scene where Meliodas has his foot on Escanor's head, that was a pretty good parallel for what Escanor did to Meliodas earlier on in the chapter, but it also was way more disrespectful. I really enjoyed that. That was a nice touch, actually. In all honesty, that was a nice touch, nice parallel. I appreciated that the author did that. It does show the difference between Meliodas and Escanor to a very big degree. I also loved how nonchalant Escanor was for a lot of his assaults. He just kind of had a straight face, like he was swatting a fly. Love that. And then Escanor just looking serious in general. We got to see the majority of Escanor's progression and his design change. Ultimately, he just gets very muscular and he kind of has a scrunch over so that he could see Meliodas. Those scenes though really made the chapter. In terms of the art and the parallel with the one with Escanor grabbing Meliodas' head versus Meliodas putting his foot on Escanor, I appreciate that. Now 232 has a little bit more for the plot, or not so much for the plot. Well, actually, it's the one that concludes the fight. So yes, it has a little bit more for the plot, but it also brings in a degree of mystery with one thing that kind of popped in there. And it also opened up the discussion for people as to whether or not Escanor has different sides to himself, or what is the real Escanor. At which case, it's that's actually a very worthwhile topic to talk about with Escanor, his identity, because I think with Escanor, what you ultimately have isn't so much as split personalities. It's more that you have different ego states, and ego states are a term that popped up in psychology. I'm not sure if it's a term that's still used in contemporary psychology, but I know that they exist, and they just kind of convey an idea about people's shifting perspectives over the course of a day rather than any kind of severe change. And that's what I'm going to be arguing with Escanor when we get into that part of the video. But anyway, jargon aside, that second chapter, the value of it is that we see Escanor at his peak, or his current peak, because I feel like Escanor can still grow, although can invincibility really grow? I don't know. If he actually has like damage, impervious to damage when he's in his peak mode, when he's in the 1, then I think it's like, well, there's no point of him growing. Maybe if you could extend that 1 minute to like maybe 1 minute and 30 seconds, that'd be pretty cool. But he seems like a man that's ruled by his power, or by the rules of his power. Anyway, not the point. That fight, we get to see Escanor go all out. I'm just running through the chapter again. That fight was largely, again, there's quite a few scenes where there isn't any text, but there is one segment where there is a message bubble, and that message bubble is by far the most interesting thing in the chapter, because it's hard to tell who exactly is saying that, and we don't really know who they're referencing. Now, the problem with that message bubble, when you look at it, like before we even start talking about who it might be, is that Merlin kind of like just drops it after she initially hears it. And I mean, that makes sense. Like, she's watching a very stressful situation. Like she says, Meliodas is most likely going to kill them if Escanor doesn't do something about it. But actually one thing about it, because that message bubble is going to be a really big deal. Yeah, you know what? First, let's talk about the one, Escanor. That was amazing. Holy, he looks really evil, kind of. Like, I was kind of sad that it looked that evil, because up to this point, I really like Escanor's I don't care face. But with the 1, he does look very evil. He's covered in sun flames. I think that's a pretty cool thing. But as we see, once Escanor starts going, he uses his divine sword, Escanor. Let's just I guess acknowledge the absolute manliness that it is to name an attack after yourself. And this is also another thing that kind of opens up the gate for who is the real Escanor in that general kind of discussion. But anyway, divine sword Escanor is amazing. It's just a simple like stroke downwards, and then Meliodas is on the ground. I found that to be amazing. Look, man, like it's funny, man. Like, the guy is so overpowered, it's funny. And Escanor ultimately ending off the chapter by saying, how does it feel to be looked down upon by a human? I like it. But that last little bit of information is also very important. That last little dialogue is very important when we're going to go into talking about Escanor and his general, I guess, his personality, right? Because there, in anime and manga, there's that very common storytelling device that's to say split personalities, that this person has a split personality, or like they have that other side to themselves. When it comes to Escanor, I really do think that all Escanors are the same Escanor. It's an extension of the same person. It's the same person. What I ultimately think is happening with Escanor's perspectives is that, you just have weak Escanor, and then you have muscle-bound Escanor. And what I really think here, like any kind of personality deviations that you have coming from that are kind of like the same personality deviations that you would have from getting a boost of testosterone. Testosterone is a hormone. It makes people more confident. A person could seem more confident if they get a sudden surge of it. What I'm ultimately trying to say with this point is that with Escanor, when you look at what was going on in that battle, Escanor actually maintained his core fundamental principles. By all extent, who he is and what he cares about in his weak form are still things that he cares about in his larger form. It's just his larger form is so much more confident that it might overshadow it to some degree. So, I saw people in comments saying that, that the 1 might be coming out of Escanor's curse seal, and that was pretty funny that people are seeing the tattoo as some kind of curse seal, but I don't think that's the case either. I think with Escanor, what you ultimately have is just this guy. He has fundamental concepts that he cares about. Those concepts or some aspects of his personality get exaggerated as the sun goes higher up into the day, and then you have just the one at that one point who is just the epitome of confidence and I guess general arrogance, and then you have it coming back down. And when you look at what he's ultimately saying in the chapter, like, he kept with his general perspective of how does it feel to be looked down by a human, and you know, he's largely still proud of himself. He's still treating Meliodas the same way that he did when he went into battle. That continuity of consciousness with Escanor, it makes it seem like this is just the same guy. And you know, there is that kind of argument that skinny Escanor might have some feelings about his bigger version, but like at the end of the day, both of them maintain their memories across their transformations. It's the same person, and that's another thing. They're maintaining memories. I think Escanor Little One is aware of what his big one is doing, and I do think he acknowledges that him and the big one are the same people. If anything, if we were to get a big identity arc for Escanor, I do think it would ultimately be one where Escanor is coming to full terms that this is him and this is who he's always going to be, and it's just he gets more confident. Now mind you, we haven't seen enough of Escanor to be able to like make any final assertions, and now that we have a situation where he's being referred to as the One, you know, when you have a different name, it makes you feel like, yeah, you know, this is a different person. And actually, even with Escanor naming an attack after him, you could even see that as being at a point where the One is seeing Escanor as his ultimate tool, and that's why he's calling it the Divine Sword Escanor. And you know, like, it could go that way, but how I am ultimately interpreting that is just the One got to a point that he is just so far above the world that he kind of just disassociated from himself for a bit and just realized his body as a weapon. But again, that's like a way out there perspective, and it would totally indicate a god complex, but that's actually totally within line for Escanor. Regardless, Escanor, even if he has a split personality, sorry for the slip of the words there, even if he has a split personality, I still think it's an absolutely incredible character, and I really love that we have Escanor in the 7 Deadly Sins. And I apologize because I realized that I might have slipped up on some of my words there when I'm explaining this kind of perspective, but this is a perspective coming out of nuance, and I do apologize if I didn't make myself clear. Anyway, to talk about the other part of the chapter, that message bubble. Now, the thing with the message bubble is that it's in black text. We don't know who that message bubble is referring to, and it's kind of creepy that that voice is near Merlin. So, from the way it looks in that scene, it seems like no one else heard that but Merlin. So I don't really know what to kind of see here. Like, so the first interpretation is that the black box is Escanor saying it, in which case, if it's Escanor, it's most likely the One aspect of Escanor, or the one that powers Escanor. And in that case, then my whole thing about earlier where I was talking about that it's probably not a split personality, that whole thing is shot if that black box is Escanor. I'm not sure. The context makes it feel like it's Escanor because Escanor is the one who needs a little bit more, that he's about to approach into his midday form. I really don't know, but it's so vague. Now, it being a black box, I want to think it's a demon. Like, if I'm thinking a demon, I'm thinking it's maybe the Demon King. I have no idea why he's going to be there, but the little bit more could also be referring to Meliodas. Like, maybe he just wants Meliodas to get damaged a little bit more. Maybe he wants, or whatever is saying that message box, wants Meliodas to fall because something nice will happen afterward. I don't know. We are in a really dangerous situation where Escanor is about to leave invincibility, and if Meliodas stands back up, it's going to be a pretty nasty situation. That said, Elizabeth is running in, so maybe she can calm him down. Ultimately, that message box, finding out who is the one that's saying that message box is going to be absolutely important. My bets right now are on it being an evil force or just someone from the demon side. I don't want to think it's Escanor, just because it would lead to an implication that, like I just spent a lot of the video talking about, I don't believe in. So that's my personal bias on that. But if it does turn out to be some component of Escanor that said just a little bit more, you know, I'll take that loss. It'll be interesting to see if it actually was Escanor. Anyway, those are the two assumptions I have for that scene. It's either Escanor, it's either someone who wants Meliodas to go down. Yeah. we'll have to see what happens next week. Next week is titled Damage, I believe, so that's pretty interesting. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and thanks for putting up with my little bit of rambling there about Escanor's identity and all that kind of good stuff. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know if you are of the opinion that that message box is Escanor and that there might be something else to Escanor, or that the One and Escanor are different people. You know, if you have that perspective, let me know down below. Like, at this point, all things are possible because we just don't have enough information to be able to make the proper conclusion for Escanor. Who knows, maybe next chapter we will get enough information about it. But till then, you know, thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a very great day.